Question number 1, Colin Keir.
Whether the UK has indicated by what mechanism criminals will be repatriated to Scotland if the UK opts out of the European arrest warrant.
Cabinet Secretary Kenny McCaskill.
Scottish ministers, the Lord Advocate, Scottish police and legal professionals, as well as other devolved administrations and justice agencies, have all raised clear concerns about the UK coalition government's handling of the opt-out decision and vital EU justice and police cooperation measures. UK ministers have indicated that they are minded to opt out of these measures, but not which measures they might opt back into or what alternative arrangements, if any, will be available to bring cross-border criminals to justice. We have highlighted to UK ministers specific examples of cases in Scotland where the European arrest warrant has ensured that people accused of serious crimes, including murder, who had fled abroad, were brought to justice swiftly and efficiently. We oppose strongly any decision by UK ministers that puts these arrangements at risk.
Colin Keir.
I thank the Minister for his reply. Given that I wrote to Theresa May last November and have so far received no reply, can I ask the Scottish Government what discussions have been had with the Secretary of State in relation to Westminster's proposed opt-out, and what impact this would have in both financially and otherwise to the UK or Scottish taxpayer?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I wrote UK ministers in April, August and November last year expressing our strong interest in the opt-out decision and raising concern about the lack of prior notification of the Home Secretary's statement about the opt-out on 15 October. I met with Home Office Minister James Brokenshire in January to further emphasise our concerns. Officials have requested sight of any analysis prepared by UK officials about the impact. It is not possible to know what the practical and financial implications of the opt-out might be until UK ministers confirm which measures, if any, they might opt back into and what alternative bilateral arrangements they plan to put in place following an opt-out. As I say, this is a matter, though, that causes concern, I would hope, across the parliamentary chamber, as it causes concern through the judiciary, through prosecution, through defence and through others involved in law enforcement and the judicial system here in Scotland.
Question number 2, Neil Bibby.
To ask the Scottish Government what the rates of income tax would be in an independent Scotland.
Cabinet Secretary John Swinney.
Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government will reach a view on the appropriate level of the rate of income tax when the time comes to set the rate.
Neil Bibby.
On the day when we finally get an answer as to when the referendum will take place, I thought we might get a more detailed answer than that on income tax. The SNP want to see corporation tax reduced. John Swinney has said previously taxation will not rise, but Nicola Sturgeon says taxes could go up to pay for more benefits. They can't be both right, and neither can Jo McAlpine when she says she wants to see Scandinavian levels of taxes. So which is it, Cabinet Secretary? Will income tax go up or down in an independent Scotland?
Cabinet Secretary.
I think it's really very interesting that Mr Bibby is now planning on the basis that there will be a requirement for an independent Scotland to set these rates of income tax. I think that's really a very encouraging admission from Mr Bibby that it's all over for the Bitter Together campaign of which he's been a part. So I think we've got to a very encouraging start in the process of the discussion that Mr Bibby has got to. Of course, what Mr Bibby should take into account is that the public finances of Scotland are stronger relative to the rest of the United Kingdom. We contribute more to the UK than we get back in return, and on the basis of that information, I think people in Scotland can have real confidence that an independent Scotland would be able to manage its tax affairs and its public finances in a much more effective way than any United Kingdom government has ever been able to do.
Question number 3, Margaret McDougall.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what steps it has taken to help tenants and social landlords affected by the so-called bedroom tax.
Minister Margaret Burgess.
The Scottish Government is taking all reasonable action that we can. We have written to the UK Government on numerous occasions since December 2010 to protest at the imposition of a measure that is not supported nor warranted in Scotland. I put our objections across in the strongest terms to Lord Freud only 2 weeks ago when we met. In January, we announced a £5.4 million package of funding to help frontline advice services as they support people, individuals and families facing the realities of these cuts. We will also make £2.5 million available for social landlords to help ensure that their tenants have the advice and support that they need. We are providing a £590,000 training, guidance and support package to boost the capacity of social landlords and homelessness prevention services to deal with housing benefit reforms. And I set all this out in a letter I recently sent to social landlords. In that letter, I encourage landlords to follow the example of Dundee City Council, which has agreed to use all legitimate means to collect rent due, except eviction, for people in rent arrears because of the bedroom tax and after the Director of Housing has examined individual cases. I also highlighted the flexibility that exists in housing benefit legislation for reclassifying bedrooms.
Margaret McDougall.
While the Scottish Government is providing some funding to advice agencies to help tenants affected by the bedroom tax and universal credit, there are other measures available to it which could also be of help. In the short term, it could provide a separate fund to councils to top up the discretionary housing payment so they can help tenants bridge the gap caused by the bedroom tax, or it could fund credit unions to advertise the benefits and boost the uptake of budget accounts or jam jar accounts as they have become known, or provide incentives for people to help them open a budget account. And in the longer term, given the low levels of housing stock available, will the Scottish Government take the sensible step of increasing the funds available for the construction of social housing as a more permanent solution to the problems facing social landlords and tenants?
Margaret Burgess.
The Scottish Government oppose the bedroom tax, and we are arguing to have that tax scrapped. It is the only solution to the bedroom tax, and Margaret McDougall knows that and knows that well. The funding, perhaps Margaret McDougall should know that discretionary housing payments are social security and a reserved matter, and also there is a limit on the cap to discretionary housing payments. So even if councils topped up to the maximum, we'd still be £40 million short in Scotland. So that is not the solution. The solution is to stand shoulder to shoulder with this Scottish Government in taking the case to the UK Government to scrap the bedroom tax and to fight, if that can't happen, for more discretionary housing payments. Otherwise, join us and vote yes in the referendum.
Question number 4, Annabel Ewing.
Minister, to ask the Scottish Government what recent contact it has had with social landlords about the impact of the so-called bedroom tax.
Minister Margaret Burgess.
As I have just stated, I wrote to all social landlords last weekend to remind them of the action the Scottish Government is taking in respect of the bedroom tax and wider welfare reforms, and to highlight actions they may wish to consider to help tenants due to be affected. The Scottish Government and COSLA Joint Housing Benefit Reform Group met on Friday. Members include a range of landlords and indeed tenant representatives. We established this group in the autumn of 2010 when the UK Government first announced its welfare reforms, and it has met 14 times since then, sharing information and discussing ideas on how to reduce the impact of welfare reforms.
Patrick Harvey.
Supplementary.
Sorry, Annabel Ewing.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I thank the Minister for her answer. And it is clear that this is a tax emanating from the UK Government, from the Tory Liberal Coalition Government in London. It is a pernicious tax, as it will hit some of the most vulnerable members in our society. Can I ask the Minister to clarify the position specifically with respect to kinship carer tenants?
Minister.
Well, I agree with the member that it is one of the most pernicious pieces of legislation that has ever come out of the UK Government. But I am pleased to be able to inform the member that following concerted pressure from the Scottish Government, the Department of Work and Pensions has now confirmed that formal kinship carers will be exempted from the bedroom tax. This is a welcome concession by the UK Government, but I will continue to make the case for each and every person set to be penalised until the bedroom tax is scrapped altogether.
Patrick Harvey this time.
I'm grateful, Presiding Officer, but I have to say I'm disappointed to a certain extent with the Minister's responses on this issue so far. Some councils have taken the decision that they will disregard the proportion of arrears that arise because of the bedroom tax. Does the Scottish Government not accept that it can support them financially to do that? That is not a reserved issue, and the Scottish Government has a responsibility to act.
Minister.
The Scottish Government is doing all it can within its devolved powers to help those that are going to suffer from the bedroom tax. We've pointed out the limitations in terms of discretionary housing payment and how that can be assisted. We have encouraged local authorities, councils and landlords to look at how they can sympathetically manage the rent arrears that may accrue because of the bedroom tax. But I think Patrick Harvey, like me, should join together with the whole of Civic Scotland and take this case to Westminster, where the problem lies.
Malcolm Chisholm.
I hope the Minister can do something to top up the discretionary housing benefit. But one issue I raised in the early years debate last week was the case of an absent parent who is looking after children, say at the weekend, and they also will be caught by the bedroom tax. Would it be possible to take some action, really in the interests of family policy, to deal with that situation?
Minister.
We are looking at all situations, and I think that the situation that Malcolm Chisholm raised there is a very legitimate situation. It's just one of the other examples of circumstances and families that are going to be affected by the bedroom tax. But as we find one and address one, as we've done with kinship carers, we've had concessions in foster parents and concessions in veterans, and we will continue to look to assist anyone who is affected by the bedroom tax. But I have to say that I would have liked that the Labour Party and all of this chamber could have stood shoulder to shoulder against Westminster on this, rather than targeting. They've picked the wrong target this time. The target for the bedroom tax is the UK coalition government and not this SNP Scottish Government.
Christine Graham.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I advise the Minister that Scottish Borders Council have told me they will receive £170,000 for this discretionary fund, and they're topping it up because, as we know, it's capped by £60,000, yet that won't even meet half the need. Does she agree with me there is no way that this can be resolved without independence?
Margaret Burgess.
Yes, I do agree with Christine Graham on that, because the UK Government seems unconcerned about the matter. But I would also say that I would have thought all parties in this chamber should have risen, as I said, and opposed the bedroom tax. We had the absolute nonsense at the weekend of the Liberal Democrat conference, when their members in Scotland are actually all opposed to the bedroom tax, and the only Liberal Democrats that seem to support it are those that are elected to represent the people, and I find that a sad position as well.
Question number 5, David Stewart.
To ask the Scottish Government what plans it has for the future of air services from Skye.
Minister Keith Brown.
The Scottish Government has no plans for future air services from Skye.
David Stewart.
Presiding Officer, the Minister will be well aware of the Skye Air Services feasibility study, which predicted an unconstrained demand for air services from Skye to Glasgow and Edinburgh as over 21,000 passengers per year. Does the Minister share my enthusiasm about the boost such a service could provide to the business, domestic and tourist markets, and provide a future where the sky is the limit for Skye?
Minister.
I would accept there are a number of interesting questions raised by the study to which David Stewart refers. First of all, previous studies have given figures up to £48 million to restore or upgrade the airstrip. It's also true to say the study mentions the fact that services might be included within the ADS scheme, but of course that would be dependent upon very high demand, much higher demand than those shown in the study, and that would also have the effect, of course, of reducing the subsidy to the service substantially. So, of course, this is a matter which we will consider if approached by Highland Council, which is not yet the case. But we have to recognise that any discussion will be against the current background of financial constraint and an understanding that the Scottish Government is not prepared to take on new funding commitments at this time.
Dave Thompson.
The Minister has previously told me, as he just said, he is happy to meet Highland Council to discuss the Fly Skye project, which will boost the Skye and Lochall's economy by about £6 million a year. Can he give me an update on where he is with that? And I'm slightly disappointed that Highland Council haven't been in touch with him so far.
Minister.
Yes, I have no knowledge of any approach yet from Highland Council, although I will be meeting with the leader of Highland Council soon. I will check in case something has come in recent days to make sure that's still the case. But as I've said, I'm more than happy to discuss these issues, but taking this forward will be a requirement for the councils to find the subsidy level that we require to sustain this service. But as I say, in the meantime, more than happy to discuss it.
Question 6, John Scott.
To ask the Scottish Government what it is doing to promote engineering as a career choice for young men and women.
Minister Alistair Allen.
The Scottish Government firmly believes that science and engineering are key to achieving the overall purpose of creating a more successful Scotland. To this end, we provided £1.9 million for the academic year 2012-13 to support an additional 300 funded university places, increasing this to 1,200 additional places by 2015-16. Skills Development Scotland and Scottish Enterprise are developing an engineering skills action plan which will be prepared by mid-July 2013, and we have provided £250,000 to establish CareerWise, specifically targeted at attracting more women to the sector. In addition, we have provided £25,000 to the Engineering Development Trust this year to support their Go for Set programme for Scottish secondary schools.
John Scott.
I thank the Minister for his very comprehensive answer. He will be aware of the successful STEM programme and the Scottish Space School programme run by Strathclyde University to encourage school leavers into engineering. However, companies in Ayrshire and I believe across Scotland are being held back by a lack of engineering graduates being available, as Professor Matthew Harrison of the Royal Academy of Engineering recently noted. Engineering firms are crying out for engineers. They can't get the people they need. Minister, can we expect and can you encourage a renewed emphasis, although I accept your reply, to be put on delivering more engineering courses both at higher education and further education level to help both our economy and provide high-value jobs and careers for our young people?
Minister.
Well, I can certainly agree with the member about the need to promote engineering as a career. I've outlined some of the steps that have been taken on that, and also the point about increasing, as we have done, the number of places available for people to study these subjects. There is an important point as well, which is that if we're going to exploit Scotland's potential as an engineering nation, we have to also encourage the option of engineering as a career amongst women, and a great deal of effort goes to that end in the schools as well.
Question number 7, Colin Beattie.
To ask the Scottish Government how it will strengthen the shift towards sustainable and renewable energy use in the manufacturing sector.
Minister Fairley-Shewing.
Presiding Officer, we place great importance on the use of sustainable and renewable energy in Scotland from manufacturing across a range of sectors and activities. The shift to renewable energy will also result in lower energy bills for the sector than a continued reliance on fossil fuels. From the 1st of April this year, the new Resource Efficient Scotland programme will provide tailored support for manufacturing and other business sectors to maximise the benefits of resource efficiency.
Colin Beattie.
I thank the Minister for his response. Would the Minister agree that clear benchmarks are essential to measuring the success in transitioning to energy efficiency? And has the Scottish Government considered what type of measurements to track positive shifts towards clean energy should be used?
Minister.
Yes, we do, and yes, we have. Just yesterday, Presiding Officer, I presented certificates to around 40 businesses and public sector organisations that have massively cut their energy bills, reducing emissions and reducing the cost of their energy bills. One of them, the Qeneral Hotel, cut their energy bills by a massive 85%. So this is something which can be of immense value, not only to protect the environment, but to cut costs of business at very difficult times.
Very briefly, Jamie McGregor.
Thank you. What can the Scottish Government do to ensure that turbines for both hydro and wind are manufactured in Scotland instead of being imported?
Briefly, Minister.
Well, by continuing to promote the pro-renewable energy policies that this Government supports. With faltering and wavering support from the member's own party, the Conservative Party. Therefore, I am delighted that Gaia Wind Turbines, located in Glasgow, is a world award-winning manufacturer of small turbines, and also we have other turbines manufactured in Scotland. And with our unequivocal, clear, strong leadership, unmatched by the Conservative Party,
we will continue to add to the 11,000 jobs in Scotland that are supported by renewables.